At an early age, I recognized myself to be a lone wolf in this world. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't fully connect with others or any particular group or category. I saw things very deeply and very differently than anyone else cared to. As a young girl, I had a gigantic imagination. I could be alone for hours without realizing I was alone. I had 2 younger sisters who had each other, and 1 older brother who wanted nothing to do with me. So I entertained myself. I was feisty and always spoke my mind. I entered every new experience in a state of excited anticipation, positivity, and joy. Many kids and adults repeatedly called me annoying. But even still, I kept this optimistic point of view about people, because I could always see the truest part of a person, their soul, even when they couldn't, or when they thought they hid it well. I always knew the type of person they were, how they were feeling, either about me, someone else, or about a situation, because I could read their emotions, their eyes, body languages, and expressions. I was continuously met with rejection for this because I would say what I knew, but everyone denied it and treated me as if I was lying or faking it, as if I wasn't being authentic. They would say things like, "You don't know what you're talking about. You're being ridiculous. You think you know everything, don't you? And you think you're better than everyone else." I began to feel guilty and shameful for thinking I knew things. I began questioning myself. Was I making it all up? Why did I think this way? There was something very wrong with me. I didn't understand why I was so different from others, or why everyone believed I was always lying to them about what I saw, or thinking I was better than them because I pointed it out. And over the years, as it continued, I began to hate myself for this. Along with self-hatred, I grew angry. Angry at society. Angry because I saw deceit and fakeness all around me and everyone denied it. Angry at my parents for not standing up for me or protecting me, but instead confirming and reinforcing my new self-hate belief system. I grew to be angry at all people for being a carbon copy of each other. Even the unique people who went outside of the normal boxes I was used to seeing had their own cliques that still rejected me. I continued to try shifting and shaping myself into what I thought they would like and accept, so that I could feel a part of something, and not so completely alone. I had within me this perpetual optimism that refused to die, and I gave it all to them, always pointing out the good I saw in them, always encouraging their dreams. I gave them all my time, all my joy, all my energy, pretending to like things I didn't like, pretending to be someone I knew I wasn't. I gave up my spirited personality so I wouldn't frighten them away, closely watching my every action and reaction, careful not to slip up and speak my mind or get too excited. But it was never enough. They loved taking from me. They would entertain me, smile to my face, and let me tag along with them. But they knew that I knew it was all fake. No friendship or group lasted. The truth seeped out of me. I always managed to screw up any relationship I had from speaking my mind and pointing out what I saw. By this time, I managed to find love in all the wrong places. I was finally getting attention. I was finally being seen. So again, I gave away all that I had to give. Love, connection, my body and my essence. As if my well would never run dry. But this only led to more anger, because I was giving them my authentic self, but they weren't giving me anything real in return. Only lies and empty promises. I saw through them, like I saw through everyone else. My anger towards myself grew even stronger. I believed I was the problem, and everyone in my life all seemed happy and in agreement with my belief. No one stopped me or took me aside and said I mattered. No one encouraged me to love myself or pointed out any of the good that I did. They said nothing, no words of kindness, only silence. Unless they disapproved of me or disagreed with me, then they had a lot to say. I believe this was my punishment. It's what I deserved for being so different. Over the years, I tried to pretend I didn't see the truth and depth to every encounter, situation, and interaction, because I didn't want to make waves. But I couldn't help it. I did see truth, everywhere that I went. And I saw how much people hated when I pointed out what I saw. Hated me for seeing it. Hated my presence for representing it. I wished to be like everyone else, oblivious to the truth. I rejected what I represented. closing my eyes and plugging my ears when truth was screaming at me to listen and speak up. But I couldn't speak up anymore. I was fired from jobs for speaking about the truth, or alienated by my coworkers, classmates, family, and society. I just couldn't take this hatred from others anymore. And I had lost my grandmother, who was the only one who saw me. I burned bridges with every friend and every lover, only interacting with my family when I had to. God, how I hated humans. I emotionally shut down. I stopped trying to pretend that I liked them. I suddenly need glasses to see. I gained weight at a rapid pace, and all I could speak about or think about was the negativity that surrounded me. This continuous rejection from others and myself created a deep, dark pit of self-loathing. I felt utterly alone and utter hopelessness. Eventually, the screams of truth became a whisper. For so long, I hid my true self far away from others, but mostly far away from me. I was afraid to want anything good in life, afraid to imagine my dreams coming true. I believed I could never deserve anything beautiful because those things were only meant for the perfect and happy people who belonged here. I had depleted my energy shaping myself to be what others wanted me to be, and now I had nothing left for me. After realizing I was never going to have a place in this world, I wanted to take my own life. I'd sit alone for hours trying to work my way up to it, trying to cut a little deeper, getting creative in my mind of all the ways that I could do it, and imagining who would find me. I hoped it would be my mother or my brother. Maybe then they'd finally feel something for me. I imagined my funeral and who would show up. No one liked me. No one would grieve me. That was worse than death. It would be a pity party of everyone who was obligated to be there, saying things like, "What a shame. She had so much potential. Her anger and sadness got the best of her." And so on, until it made me sick to my stomach. No way was I going to give them the satisfaction of confirming that I was too weak for this world. I became fueled by my resentment for this idea, pushing my body forward to keep fighting for another day so that I could throw it all in their faces, that I was going to survive. I cold-heartedly walked around with a shield of protection from all outside energies. I kept my head down and my mouth shut as much as possible. In public, I became a shell of a person and completely invisible. No one heard me or noticed me, unless they were telling me what I was doing wrong, which in their eyes was everything. And those that did notice me, I was immediately suspicious of. What did they want from me? What did they want to take? I had nothing left to give. So I rejected them before they got the chance to reject me. Year after year, questioning why I still existed. Either God is cruel, or there is no such thing. I was yet again in another job headed downhill fast. They forced me to train on a new system that I had no interest in training in. I was angry that I was hired to do a job I wanted to do, only to be forced a couple months later into doing another I didn't want to do at all. I angrily went to the training class, sat in the back, refusing to willingly participate in any of it. And that's when I met my trainer. He was a huge white guy whose eyes struck me. Because I've been left on my own for so long, I am used to figuring out things on my own, and I despised asking for help. So I made sure to quickly learn everything I needed to so I didn't have to ask. But despite me not asking for help, and doing everything by the book, he would still call on me. This annoyed me like the sound of metal scraping metal. He was a persistent, won't take no for an answer, lust for life of a man who I thought was way too overly confident in his interactions with me. After training me, he persisted in his attempts to get a smile out of me. Could he not feel me pushing him away with my energy, my looks, my eye rolls? I was short in all my replies to his questions. I had dealt with many men wanting to take from my well, and I was done letting them. He radiated so much warmth and affection, but I assumed it was all a convincing act to get what he wanted out of me. Day after day he persisted, and genuinely made me laugh out loud, when I really tried hard not to. But no matter how hard I tried to resist his charm, he cut through all my walls of protection like it was easy. He called me out on all the ways I was failing at pretending to be cold-hearted and mean. He saw through me, like I saw through most people, and that intrigued me. I began to look forward to the few interactions we had together, but pretended I didn't. He was far from my usual type, and he was well known in the office. Everyone seemed to like him. I was invisible to most people, and so I couldn't understand why he kept choosing to work so hard for my smile when he can get one anywhere. Could he not see that I was broken and waiting for my exit? He playfully ignored my bitchiness toward him, like he enjoyed the challenge. When he was absent, I felt it. When he didn't interact with me, I felt it. And so I let down some of my shields for him, and only him. I let him get closer and closer because I missed him when he was far. We talked like we had known each other forever. His hazel eyes were like forests I wanted to get lost in, to forget about all my troubles. His giant arms were the safest place in the whole world to me. I did something I swore not to do again. I fell in love, hard, and I grasped onto his love like a lifeline. I put my exiting thoughts on hold and let myself believe in goodness again. But it was short-lived. Our relationship took a turn for the worse. I was only happy when I was with him, and therefore miserable and angry still in every other aspect of my life. He saw me, but he was the only one who could. I was still invisible to the rest of the world. We went through dark times. I called him out on his BS, and he called me out on mine. I almost lost him several times. I could see that I was single-handedly destroying the beautiful, bright, and warm person that he was when we met. But I had lost my authentic self long before I met him, and I had no idea where to find her. I blamed myself for sucking the life force from him with my anger and negativity. I begged him to leave me, because I didn't have the strength to leave him. I knew if he left, I would finally have the courage to make my exit. Instead of leaving me, he married me, and we had 2 beautiful children together. I had dreamt up this life. I created every detail of it in my imagination long before I had met him. I was going to have the perfect little family that I longed for as a child. And on the outside, that's exactly what we created. But emotionally, I was in no condition to have children. I put myself in a position I couldn't escape from. They were so little and so dependent on me. How could I exit now? My mind was in a relentless battle with my heart. I did everything I could to push away those negative thoughts, but the harder I resisted them, the more persistent they became, spiraling me into a deeper depression. We were barely hanging on in all aspects of this word. My children were so dependent on me, but I didn't have much to give them. I found myself replaying the same scenarios with them as I did in my past, giving them all I had, all my time, creativity, joy, and energy, until I was depleted once again. My husband was also depleted by me, our children, and his job. One dark night, I locked myself in my room with a tall glass of wine, just before he got home from work, leaving our children unattended with their dinner. I looked at myself in the mirror with so much hatred, I could barely stand. I asked the mirror why the fuck I was still here. I said I was a sorry excuse for a wife and mother. I was just taking up space where another would be grateful for my position. I didn't deserve any of this because I didn't know how to be happy. I didn't know how to be in my body, or to see the good in anything. I fell to the floor begging for help and rocked back and forth, and the last thing I remember saying was, "Help me. Help me. Please, Grandma, someone help me." That was the night my life changed forever. I had no idea how, but I got the strength to keep going. I had this epiphany that this was my life, and rather than dying, I should live my life the way I wanted to, no matter who I pissed off. What the hell was left to lose? Everyone disliked me anyway, even when I tried to be likable. I felt this urgency to learn everything I wanted to learn, but didn't because I was too ashamed of my own interests. I logged into YouTube and searched whatever I felt like searching, no longer fearing who might see my feed and judge me for it. I never had a fear of death, as you've learned. I looked forward to it. So that's where I started my journey. I wanted to know everything and anything I could about where we went when we died. I was obsessed with near-death experiences, and I was fascinated at how much they had in common. I pieced them all together and found a map to my truth. It was during this time when Dr. Joe Dispenza's teachings found me. It was the science geek in me that Dr. Dispenza reached. He explained everything I had experienced in scientific terms, like a perfect formula for unhappiness. I devoured his words, having epiphany after epiphany, like fireworks were going off in my head. He created a new formula for rewiring the brain, and it all made perfect sense to me. From him, I learned that I was not a victim of my genetics, no one was, and that I had the power to literally change my mind. That was exactly what I had asked for. I wish I could hug him. He gave me priceless knowledge that had the key to freeing me from my persistent negative thoughts. All I wanted was to learn how to control my thoughts and emotions from wreaking havoc on my life, and now I finally had the information I needed to do it. I followed his techniques, and slowly, very slowly, began to rewire my brain. And from those videos came others. Knowledge I never knew existed. I learned about being a highly sensitive person, which led to learning about being an empath. And that led me to Dolores Cannon's Starseed Discoveries. I learned how energy profoundly affects me. I learned about consciousness and the healing powers of meditation. Since that literal dark night of the soul, I've spent my free time devouring knowledge and practicing control over my negative thoughts and emotions, finding joys that make me happy, regardless of if they make anyone else happy. I found purpose, not in being accepted by society, not in my husband, not in my children, not outside of me, but in me. It took me 7 years of unrelenting determination, dedication, and persistence, but I finally found me, and I will never turn my back on me again. And now you see why I'm so passionate about self-love and finding happiness. I spent so long without it, I didn't believe it really existed, like it was a dream, a fairy tale, or magic. And I wasn't saved by any specific religion or group. I was saved by unconditional love. No matter how many times I turned my back on love, love never turned its back on me. I can finally see and experience the beauty that I deserve to. And by sharing my story, I intend to help others find theirs. Peace and love.